As you guys may know, I went to Bamber Castle last year, where I was able to see some of the props from The Last Kingdom, one of my favourite TV shows of all time. I do have some shorts available and also a long form video of when I went for you to have a look and see what it was about, and honestly it's just amazing. But it got me thinking, how accurate really are these books and the TV show? So let's have a look. So let's start with the historical figures, the people that obviously we're seeing talked about. So the show does have several historical figures. So we've got King Alfred the Great, King Ethelred, Uhtred of Bebbanburg, and the Viking leaders like Ragnar, Ivar the Boneless, and Guthrum. So Uhtred is real and fake at the same time. I've done a video about this, do go check it out. Uhtred did exist, but not at the time that The Last Kingdom is set. He came along later. So kind of a little bit of blur in the lines there. King Alfred was real, and Ragnar, figures like that are rooted in real history, but many of the characters' personalities, actions and fates are either adapted or exaggerated for dramatic effect. So let's move on to the actual events that happen in the show. So the show is set in the 9th and 10th centuries during the Viking invasions of England. Major battles like the Battle of Edington, where Alfred defeats the Viking forces of Guthrum, and the gradual unification of England are depicted. However, the timeline is quite often compressed or altered for narrative convenience. You don't want to necessarily watch the whole thing. They're going to narrow it down, condense it a little bit to make it a bit more easier, a bit nicer to manage. But it does also show real events such as Alfred's efforts to create a unified Anglo-Saxon kingdom and the Viking settlements in England. But some of the plot points are fictionalized, like Uhtred's personal journey and interactions with historical figures, because like I said, he wasn't around during this time. So let's move on to the cultural and military accuracy. So the depiction of Viking Anglo-Saxon warfare with shield walls, swords, axes and tactics is actually quite accurate, but stylized for entertainment. It captures the religious tensions of the time with a clash between pagan Viking beliefs and Christianity in Anglo-Saxon England. Some of the aspects of the Viking and Saxon culture are actually fairly accurate. They're represented quite well, historical accuracy, so that's things like clothing, architecture and weaponry. But again, some artistic liberties have been taken to make it entertaining, because we're not going to want to watch something that is just a documentary. We could go find that elsewhere. So the next is quite a big one, and that is the geography and the settlements. So locations like Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria are shown, but the geography and the settlement patterns sometimes shift for dramatic effect. So Uhtred's story, his arc, where he travelled all over the place, often are in ways that don't necessarily adhere to how the historical map was. So moving on to fiction versus history, like I've said, Uhtred is kind of fictional, kind of not. So he was a real person, but later on, and his storyline is inspired by experiences of real historic figures who could be a part of the shifting alliances happening at that time. But moving on to the Viking invasions and kingdoms, because this one is a massive thing. So the series highlights the historical struggle between the Anglo-Saxon kingdom and the Vikings, with the ongoing conflict for control of England. Some of the Viking characters, like Ivar the Boneless, are based on actual historical figures, but much of their personal stories are fictionalised or altered, as you'd expect. So in conclusion, it is fairly accurate. There's a lot there that is real. We've got people, we've got places, we've got military tactics and clothing. But there's a lot dramatised to make it entertaining, such as personal stories, love interests, how people died. Stuff like that has been enhanced, adapted, just makes it a bit more entertaining. But all in all, watching it, you're not going to be led that far from the truth of kind of what happened, but do take it with a pinch of salt. Don't necessarily write an essay around the Viking invasion going from the Bernard Cornwell books or the TV show. Maybe use different resources. But that's it for this video, guys. I love The Last Kingdom. It's something I think everyone should watch. So I just wanted to pop on and kind of share what is actually accurate about it and what is maybe a little bit fictionalized. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, if you like the video. I've got so much coming out this year. And also let me know if there's anything else you want to hear about, different franchises, book reviews, hauls. Let me know. I'm always open to ideas. Until next time, however, you take care.